So this 28 Days of Christmas episode, at least for today, is coming a bit early because, well, I've got plans tonight because, the Turner Classic Movies Marathon, Treasures from the Disney Vault, is on tonight, and I've also got a podcast to watch. So those get in the way of, especially when I have to watch a lot of these during prime time. And especially when the, especially when this marathon gets in the way a lot of the Disney TCM stuff that goes on. You may not be familiar with, especially if you don't have cable or satellite and are subscribed to TCM. But anyways, let's jump into this. I'm talking about Malcolm in the Middle Christmas episodes here today. Waited a long while to talk about this because, well, Malcolm in the Middle is one of my favorite Fox shows before I actually started watching Fox. And actually, to fully begin all of this, I actually started watching this long before I'd watch, well, what was I going to say for this? I actually watched this way before the series ended on Q13 Fox, my affiliate in Seattle, when the series was still in its prime and they were airing reruns of it during the night, but also they were airing reruns of it on IFC when I was in middle and high school, so I had a chance to watch some of the episodes. And trust me, it was worth it to watch the episodes on IFC. Of course, before they replaced it with the 70s show. Which, I'm not going to cover the 70s show because it just can't sit with me. I don't like the time period. Well, not the time period, but I just don't like a lot of the show. There's just something in it just doesn't resonate with me. But Malcolm in the Middle, just something about it was just so funny, and a lot of the jokes really blended in very well. It was kind of like a sitcom, except it didn't have a laugh track, and a lot of the camera angles could move freely. And it worked so very well that it honestly, it could make it onto my top 10 list of my favorite TV shows if I felt like making that list. But I'm not even going to bother right now making that list. But as of right now, we're going to talk about one of the free Malcolm in the Middle Christmas episodes, simply titled Christmas, Season 3, Episode 7. In this, Lois tries to make the three of them behave by, of course, taking Christmas away from them. In order for them to make sure that they're on their best behavior, they, of course, have to act like they're really kind and well-mannered, which, of course, is like a torture and kind of like hell to the three of the boys. While that's going on, Francis is staying over at their grandmother's place, which they never, ever, 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 ever visit, which, of course, we find out that the grandmother is not really that welcome of a relative to the series and all. And then, oh god, just too many of the jokes work out too well in this episode. And so many of them, I just don't want to give away in this. And because of that, I highly recommend you checking it out. And the way you can find this, well, pretty much you can pretty much find all of the episodes up on Netflix, because Netflix has pretty much had it since the beginning of time on their streaming service. But also because of the fact is, they've never released the entire series up on DVD, so it's almost entirely available on streaming, but also it's on Amazon Video, it's up here on Netflix, which is pretty much what I've got because I can't afford Amazon Prime to get the video service. So that's pretty much all that I've been able to afford, really, is this. But maybe by next year I'll be able to afford Prime. But while we're focused on that, let's see if we can focus on our next episode here that we shall take a look at, which is part of... Oh, might have jumped a little bit. Let's see if I can find it. But you know this because... Here it is. Because it's the second of the third Malcolm in the Middle Christmas episodes. It's Season 5, Episode 7, Christmas Trees. So, see you for the next part. And apologies for that ghost haunting the place. Don't really know what's going on with the place. Our next episode is Christmas trees. And boy oh boy, this was surprising. This was actually the first Malcolm in the Middle Christmas episode I actually saw when I first watched the series on IFC. And this was probably the one I really, really, really loved. Not only for its writing, but also for the comedy that was really inside the episode. The plot of this is that Hal winds up getting laid off for 2 weeks with no pay. However, one of his co-workers basically sets him up with a vacant lot and some Christmas trees to sell. So Malcolm, Reese, and Dewey decide to sell some Christmas trees while they try to make some profit. But the church right over the street basically wants them off of their property, wants them basically gone so that they don't have any competition. Basically shows just how evil Christianity is, isn't it? But not really in reality, but they show how much consumerism is. Kind of like 700 Club. But with the Christianity is evil and greedy out of the way, the subplot of this is that Lois winds up finding out that there's a squirrel inside the store that she's working at, and winds up having to figure out a way to find it and prove to her worker that it doesn't have any rabies. And the lengths that they go through, hiring the homeless and doing it to the sound of the Little Drummer Boy from The Little Drummer Boy, is the most hilarious thing in all of history. And first time seeing it, I laughed my head off at it. I really, really laughed. And there was so much that went on with it in the episode, such as, like, the Hal winds up getting obviously kicked off of his lot because of the homeless people and has to, sell the trees from his home. But because the police, they obviously can't sell the trees on his own home because, you need a permit to do that. And of course, he winds up putting all the trees inside of his home. But then again, someone stops by his home, which I swear is Matt LeBlanc from Friends and Man with a Plan, which I've only seen Friends and not Man with a Plan because I don't watch a lot of sitcoms. And he sells it, and of course Hal winds up selling him a tree, and of course in the end they wind up making a profit in the end. Which from then on, they wind up hiring the homeless people to find the squirrel that Lois winds up bringing over to the house for obvious reasons, to obviously stop by to pick up some things from the home. And of course, from then on, homeless people stop by, and in the end, let me catch my breath here. You know, they all celebrate their holidays, they get them Christmas gifts, they wind up bringing, you know, Francis hotel workers over to the home, and of course, they all wind up getting in return a quarter. Just a quarter. That is, I don't know how to react to all this. This is the most, for a first episode, I really, really love that moment. And I definitely loved a lot of the comedy in it. But I especially would love to see what happens when we finally take a look at the third and final Malcolm in the Middle Christmas episode. Season 6, Episode 6. The second to last season to the series. So, let's take a look. And now we finally conclude the Malcolm in the Middle Christmas trilogy with Hal's Christmas Gift. What do I even say to this? I mean, it's not as, funny as Christmas, or at least has a bit of the comedy as Christmas Trees, but Hal's Christmas Gift definitely does have a fair bit of the comedy that both those episodes have. I mean, what happens is that Lois winds up getting into a bit of road rage with another person who's shopping, and of course they wind up deciding to have themselves a little bit of a cheap Christmas. And what winds up happening is that Hal winds up getting a bit jealous, and of course they decide to have themselves a bit of a road trip, with Hal behind the wheel going on their little road trip thing, trying to figure out where they're going for their little gift or whatever. But of course it looks like they're leading to nowhere, as of course Malcolm tries to figure out where, or at least why, of course Reese and Dewey aren't letting him know why they aren't letting him in on a lot of things. I mean, I loved a lot of the things in this episode, but the ending in the episode, especially when Hal winds up stealing Malcolm's credit card in the episode, I mean, it's just a twist ending that is really shocking to find out that Malcolm winded up receiving a credit card for whatever reason in the episode. But also to some certain extent that Malcolm didn't even make those clocks even to begin with. I mean, I thought Malcolm was even smart enough to even make clocks. But, guess not. But in the end, of course, as I've stated before, you know, Malcolm winds up getting his credit card stolen by his father because they wind up finding a receipt for the clocks in his jacket. As, of course, they wind up going to a skiing resort, and in the process, they wind up staying there for Christmas, and, of course, that's where the episode ends. Oh, and Malcolm winds up actually saving the day from his brothers getting pummeled by some bikers. I will say that Hal's Christmas Gift, it is a bit off here and there, but it is funny either way. It still holds the comedy that a lot of the other Malcolm in the Middle episodes have. Not one I'd be watching again, but I'd still watch it, along with the other two Malcolm in the Middle Christmas episodes. So, I think that would conclude it today. Apologies if this was a really short, Christmas episode for today. It's just, it's just everything's going on all at once, and I gotta prepare for, everything that's going on sometime later tonight on Turner Classic Movies, and of course, watching a podcast that'll be on tonight. But it's mainly going to be Turner Classic Movies because Traces from the Disney Vault's going to be on, and they're going to be premiering. I don't know if it's going to be premiering or not, but they're going to be airing Old Yeller and I'm going to be watching it for the first time, so yeah, I'm actually going to be finally watching Old Yeller for the first time. This is kind of exciting. So, with that in mind, hope to see you guys tomorrow, and hope I have a big selection for you tomorrow. So, see ya.